Welcome to the Roswell Business Podcast. Today, we interview Jeremy Worley, talking about his life, business, and wise words. Enjoy. All right, well, Jeremy, thank you very much for spending a little bit of your afternoon today with us. It's a pleasure to have you on the podcast, to have a chance to talk to you, hear a little bit more. I know the people will enjoy the things as I have over the years, getting to know you. Sometimes we interview people that I've never met. Sometimes it's people like yourself that I've actually had the privilege of having some lunches and some meetings, and then we even did a leadership study with you a while back, and just a privilege and an honor to have you sitting here with us. So why don't you give us a little bit, tell the listeners, tell me, those that are chiming in, about a little bit about who you are. You know, how did you grow up? What makes you tick? You know, those kind of things, and then we'll just kind of springboard.
Sure. Well, Donovan, thanks for having me. I love to come on stuff like this and just talk about business and life. And I know in a lot of our discussions, we've enjoyed just kind of talking about what's going on in our life and what is going on in our businesses. And so, thanks for having me. My name's Jeremy Worley. I'm from Roswell originally, born and raised. Went to Goddard High School, and my grandfather was the principal at Roswell High School for lots and lots of years, and my mom was a first grade teacher, father was an attorney, and so deep roots in Roswell. This was always home. But I went off to school to Baylor University and studied finance, sick on bears. And after college, I actually worked as a undergraduate admissions counselor for Baylor and recruited students, and I loved it. And in fact, as I became a business owner a little bit later in life, I've often drawn on a lot of those principles and lessons I learned even as an admissions counselor years ago. And so I ultimately, a few years later, went to law school, and after graduating from law school, moved back to Roswell, and have been practicing as an attorney full-time for the last 12 years, but have been involved in kind of a number of different businesses. I practice law full-time, but I think kind of my heart is more the entrepreneurial aspect, the business side, and so sure enjoy that part of it as well.
Okay, so what were you always finance driven? Was that something from a time when you were little, or?
You know, I've always enjoyed kind of the math side, but for me, it was one of those just practical decisions. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, but I knew that no matter what, there was going to be a function of needing to understand principles of finance and money and how to manage money, whether it was law or anything else in the business world. And so I felt like if I graduated with a finance or a business degree, then it at least equipped me to go out and be successful in any number of different industries. And I always kind of had a kind of a leaning towards law. I felt like, just that was something that I would likely end up doing. But even in practicing law, I deal with issues of finances every single day.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. What is it on the law side that's so intriguing to you? Because I've just in the time that I've had conversation with you, it's not just a job that you do. This is like a very passionate side. What does that mean?
Well, for me, it starts with helping people. My specific practice area is in the injury field. So I help people that have been involved in various aspects of an injury or an accident. And so the interesting thing about that, Donovan, is nobody comes to see me or our office or our team when things are going real well. What happens is you've got a husband, a wife, mother, father who's sitting at a light, or maybe life is just perfectly normal and in an instant it changes. Yeah. And they walk in our doors and every single person's story is different. But no matter what, whether you're in red car, blue car, or you were in a catastrophic accident, there are certain aspects of life that are disrupted through an accident. And it's usually it has issues of finance. It has issues of health, medical bills. There's stressful events related to, I can't do these hobbies that I enjoy. And so what we see is just about every aspect of someone's life is impacted through an accident. And what we do is we step in and we say, okay, how do we help make life better for you? I mean, my first questions are not even really related to the legal issues. It's what's going on and how do we go on this journey with people from, I've been in this horrible event to, I can get my life back. Yeah. And we often talk about attorneys are called counselors at law, but I feel like a big part of what I do is just as much on the counseling side. It's life. It's how do I get through this horrible event of my life and be okay? And that's what we spend a lot of our time doing. And certainly the legal side comes into it. But when you say, what is it about law? It's about helping people and figuring out what is the service that we can provide, that this person whose priority is they want to be a good husband, a good father, a good mom, good dad, and this event has hurt their ability to do that. Now, what small part can we do to say, let us take this pressure off of you. Let's help you get back to those things that matter the most to you.
So in listening to you, it sounds like it's not just a job. There's a lot more to it for you.
Right. Yeah, there is. And that's every single person that walks in those doors. We never quite know what we're dealing with. Yeah. And sometimes it's just a matter of, it's a nuisance for me to deal with insurance. But you know what? Sometimes it's a matter of, I lost a loved one as a result of this accident. We see that range of people come into our office. Yeah. And you think about what that's like for someone that loses a loved one. They're not dealing with the issues of, I don't have my car for a little while. It's life issues. I've just within the last month been dealing with a woman that I helped whose husband died suddenly at 37.
Wow.
And what we're doing now is we say, we're not just a law firm that you come in the doors and here's your check at the end of the case. We really want to work hard to get involved with their story and figure out what is it that we can do to be a blessing to you, to help you. And that's where I think it goes beyond just the legal side.
So changing gears, we talked a lot about some of your business and stuff, and we'll probably visit that again because that's a very passionate side of who you are and what you're about. Let's go back. As a child or even teen or 20s, what are some of your personal passions or things that you just enjoy tinkering with? You know, if you've got time to play with something, what does that look like?
Sure. I think as a child, it started with sports. Just have always loved athletics, playing athletics, being on teams, and then even continuing on to watching athletics. And I've always enjoyed that part of it. I've enjoyed the competitive part of that.
So in athletics, I'm going to interrupt you.
Okay.
What type?
So
what's your favorite sport?
I grew up playing basketball and baseball all the way through high school. Loved it. Wasn't the most gifted athlete, but I loved competing. I loved getting out there and saying, if I work hard enough, I can be successful at something. And so I loved the camaraderie of being on teams. And so certainly athletics growing up. Something else for me was just my faith has always been a really important part of my life, and grew up going to church. And just early on in life, it became really important to me to learn, how do you serve people? How do you use the skills that God has given you to make a difference in the lives of people? And sometimes those are hobbies. For me, it became a life's passion of using the training and education I had in law to then go on and use it to help people and make a profession out of it.
We're going to pause right there and then we'll cut. This mic keeps dipping more and more. I don't know if you're noticing that. Okay, so I'll ask you then too, let's go to the professional side of those same sports. What's your, who's your go-to?
All right, so my loyalties start with Baylor. So I know that's college, but feels like professional to me. Love the Baylor Bears. Going to be going to a game this weekend against Kansas. So again, grew up going to Baylor homecoming and love Baylor athletics. So just about anything Baylor related, I'm all in. Professional sports wise, I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan.
Okay.
Baseball, St. Louis Cardinals. Grew up a huge Mark McGwire fan, and it just kind of continued on to the Cardinals. So
Okay.
yeah, and even today, if I'm home, I love to have it on something with sports. And I have a 6-year-old daughter and a 9-year-old daughter, and a wife that don't love athletics like I do. And it's like, oh, not another game, because they knew football ended. So now we pick up basketball and baseball and all these others. I think for them it never ends.
So I guess one of your escapes from reality from time to time is just to lock away with a game and disappear for a bit.
It is.
Okay.
I just decompressing for me is watching a game. I love to just read and learn. I'm fascinated with learning about other aspects of business and other industries, and I love audiobooks. I can put on a game, put on headphones and listen to a book, and I'm in my happy place.
Nice. Okay, so I know that you have your hand in various places. We'll transition into a little bit about what you do.
Okay.
I know we've touched a little bit on that just in conversing.
Right.
Obviously, anybody that's in charge of their own businesses and things like that, that's usually what we talk about the most, because that's a big part of who we are.
Right.
But I know you've got your hand in several things. Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So I am an owner, along with my brother, Josh Worley, of a law firm here in Roswell called the Injury and Disability Law Center. We started the law firm about 2.5 years ago, and it was really born out of a dream to create from the ground up a law office designed to fit the specific needs of the clients that we were serving. Okay. So as the name suggests, I handle all of our injury side of our practice. My brother Josh handles all of our Social Security disability cases and also veterans disability cases. And those two practice areas complement each other really well, because there may be times when someone is injured to such a degree that they then need help with filing for disability, or someone that may come in needing disability help was actually injured as a result of an accident. Okay. And so we started the law firm 2.5 years ago, and just had this heart for trying to develop, build it, create a product that could specifically be used to help those specific clients. There are a lot of firms that you may go see lawyers and they say, I have a general practice and they do criminal and family law. It's not me. In our office, we've really tried to specialize in a practice area and then surround ourselves with good staff and good people that just kind of buy into our vision for what we wanted for this office. And so we've been doing it the last 2.5 years, and it's just loving it. We're one of these that we try new things. We try and get creative. We kind of, if it's a normal practice in the kind of in the general practice of attorneys, then we tend to take a little bit of a different approach and try new things. And but start from a place of, what is it that the people that come to see us, the clients, what is it that they need? Yeah. Why do they come to see us? And what is it that we can provide to them that provides them the best service?
Nice.
And Donovan, we have been blessed with extraordinary staff, and they just kind of buy in. Josh and I have just tried to have this vision for who we want to be as business owners, as men, as husbands, as fathers. And we've tried to bring in staff that buy into that, and equip our staff to love on people, but also recognize we got to do things really well, serve them well, communicate well. All those different aspects that we identified that goes into being successful in providing the best service. There's so many different parts that we break it down into, but for us, it started with just having the right people around us that could buy into that. So from a full-time practice standpoint, I practice law. I'm also involved as a business owner in a couple other businesses. My dad and brother and I have ice and water vending units.
I was going to bring that up.
Yes.
Such a cool thing that you guys do.
Ice houses, and we love it. And what it is, these are standalone ice and water vending units that we have in Texas and New Mexico. And we have a few employees that help us run them, but we can essentially run them from our cell phones.
Nice.
Largely computer driven.
Really?
Yes.
Completely from...
Yes, we have 4
cool.
ice and water vending units in Waco, Texas, 500 miles away. And we can see up to the second business, how they're running. If something's wrong with it, a lot of times we can fix it remotely. We
Really?
can vend back. So
Okay.
it fits for us and those things that we love, and
Yeah.
that's technology,
That's really
business,
cool.
and so we've loved it. We've been doing that the last 6 or 7 years.
Okay.
Have units in Roswell, Alamogordo, and Waco, Texas.
Nice.
Have 7 total. So we do that. I am
me.
also an owner in the Visiting Angels franchise
Mhm.
here in Roswell. That's non-medical home care.
Right.
We typically have anywhere from 20 to 25 employees in Roswell, and our territory stretches from Roswell to Artesia,
Okay.
Carlsbad, all the way into Las Cruces, pretty much southern New Mexico.
Wow.
And so that's still growing. And then one other part, my wife is a speech therapist, and
Okay.
she has her own business called Speech Therapy Solutions, and she has 3 employees, 3 speech therapists that work for her. And what she does is she contracts out with the Roswell School District and
Okay.
provides speech services to them. She also does some speech work with the Down Syndrome Foundation. And I handle kind of more of the financial side on that, kind of the business aspects of it, and she does all the speech services and all of that. So between all of that, it's kind of a wide range of different size of businesses.
But what I've noticed, a common theme that seems to be coming not only from your businesses but from your statements too, is you guys are very much about people.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah, and I think anyone that's going into business has to figure out what is it that drives them, what is their passion. I mentioned law and helping people. It's the same thing that we're doing with the speech service or non-medical home care. There are these common themes of, if we're going to provide a service, we want to, first of all, set the culture from the very top. I think it starts with leadership, and we try and be really intentional about that. The people that we hire, the people that we partner with. I've got business partners in each of those businesses that are good men and women that have similar values and operate from a place of a certain faith foundation or core principles that we're unwilling to compromise on. And a big part of what we're doing is working with people and being willing to serve people. And I think just really being intentional about how you set up a business. If you can do a lot of things right, and if you don't get the people part right, relationships, how you communicate with people, then I believe your business will ultimately fail. And so the people side for us, it just happens to be a good fit for my personality and the people that I work with. And it's certainly fulfilling for us from a business standpoint to get to be in industries where we get to be surrounded by good people, but also serve good people.
So let's talk on that for a moment. Just from your own experience, whether it be study, obviously you've had 2.5 years of actually being fully in charge as a business owner. Mm-hmm. It's one thing to own things that are out there, but to actually, I know with the law practice, it's day in and day out, and you deal with those people on a regular basis.
Right.
What are some things that you've learned or have been able to observe that would bring value to the others of us that own businesses and have employees and things? What have you seen?
I think a couple of things stand out to me from an attorney perspective and what I do. Something that didn't just come naturally to me, or you might not think about it initially, is just the value in learning to listen to people. That is something at the core of what we do in our practice. Okay. If someone comes in and says, I need help, it's a mistake for me to jump in and say, oh, you need help with this and your bills and all these others, from saying, wait a minute, let's step back, bring you in. What is it that you need? Let's listen to those needs, and then let's come up with a plan. How do we solve those problems? If the same thing that keeps you up at night worrying about it, and I a lot of times will actually phrase it that way. I'll say, what is it after this accident or whatever you're going through, what is it at night as you're laying awake in bed at night? What is it that's keeping you awake? Let's start there. Wow. And for you, that may be as simple as I'm worried about these medical bills wrecking my family. But for the next guy that comes in, it may be, I may not ever be able to work again. How can I support my family? And I'll never know if they step in and I just assume and start telling them all the things about the services we're going to provide.
Right.
It starts by listening to them, and now let's go to work. Now let's use these skills and abilities that we have and customize it for that individual. But I do think starting with listening is a good place. from an employee standpoint,
I was going to bring that up
Sure.
because you had mentioned how much you've been blessed to have a team that buys in, and what have you been learning about creating that type of an atmosphere?
from day one with the law office, we just tried to set the tone for who we wanted to be as an organization. If there are certain principles you're not willing to compromise on, then we know from a baseline the way that we treat people, the way that we handle those difficult clients. We know that's going to basically form a basis of this is how we're going to treat people. This is how we're going to run our organization, how we treat clients, how we treat each other. That has a bearing on a lot of different things in an organization. But I think it starts at the top. And if you just go out and say, we're going to be an attorney and provide a service, in my opinion, as a business leader, you're just asking for problems. You have to be intentional about who are the people that are going to come alongside this journey with us and buy into it. And if they can't, they may be good at what they do, but if they can't buy into how we want it done, then they're not a good fit. And we're better off figuring that out on the front side. So when we interview or we talk about bringing anyone into our organization, from I don't care whether it's a receptionist or a case manager or another attorney, we try and be really transparent about who we are. Who are we as an organization? And start to try and find people that want to be part of that.
Yeah.
Most employees, it's not just the paycheck, Donovan. We have found most want to buy into something that they're passionate about.
That's good.
And when you bring in people that are passionate about helping people, it just is such a natural fit. It's amazing to see them at work, because then you can equip people to go out and do your job. We have case managers and legal assistants that I don't micromanage them. I equip them, say, I trust you, go out and do your job and do it well. We try and give everyone responsibilities. You have authority in this organization, but you're also part of a team. How do we operate as a team? Because it only takes one or two people to start kind of this infectious process, to undermine who we are, to start fractures, to start these processes that eat away at who we want to become.
It sounds like what you're saying too, though, if I'm hearing you right, it only takes one or two to start the infection the other way.
Yes.
And start a really good thing.
It does. And if you can find people that buy into that vision, there's a certain level of respect. And let me be clear, that doesn't mean we're free from conflict. I think if you try and have an organization that says we're never going to have conflict or we're going to avoid it, that's not healthy either.
So let's address that. How do you guys, because you said that you've got this just really good atmosphere that you've been able to establish in several years. Mm-hmm. Now, granted, I know you had other things that you were doing prior that kind of helped build momentum, but
sure.
How are you guys handling that? Because obviously it does come. People that are listening, business owners, managers, things like that. We all like to see what we can do that's good and sets all that. But I think, at least in my decades of business, most people are not good with the conflict side. And what are you finding that is successful or helpful, or how address that however you?
Sure. I think I've screwed it up as much as I've gotten it right.
Okay.
But Donovan, for us, what we have found is good communication is probably the single most important thing that we have done to help avoid some of those. And again, it is not that it prevents it, but it means when we have something come up, we address it. We don't pretend that it doesn't exist. Why did it come about? Is it personality driven? And what are the things we can do better? Because usually it has some bearing or some coming from a place of poor communication, one way or another, whether that's as simple as a phone message that's not relayed, or how I see them dealing with other clients, or whatever it may be. And I think as the leaders, it falls on Josh and I to set the tone. But also, we really try to emphasize just that we're a team. It's a family atmosphere. We have 7 of us in that office. That allows for us we work closely, which can be a good thing or a bad thing. Yeah. But I hope for Josh and I, each of our employees know we give value to what they do. They're important. They have authority to make decisions, but also if something comes up, we'll support them, but also we're not going to tolerate someone who comes up and just goes out of their way to start issues or to be a thorn in the side of what we're trying to do. And being willing to be honest with people and have those conversations is a lot healthier than just saying, this came up and as an owner, I don't want to deal with it. It's on them. That's what I want to do. But for the health of the organization, we need to address it. And we need to step in and say, before this becomes a bigger issue, let's do our best to figure this thing out. And if we have that foundation of the respect and being a team and all that, what we have found is that helps work through a lot of the issues that inevitably come up.
So you mean you don't get on social media and blast all about it and talk about everybody, but not talk to their face?
That's one approach. We
Totally
discourage that. But that's out there. We're not immune from it. And I think the benefit of having multiple businesses and having business partners is learning from each other. We have different skill sets. Certain things that I don't do well, thankfully, my business partner and brother, Josh, does well. Same with Visiting Angels. Tyler Carter's an amazing leader. He does a great job of running the day-to-day for us. And I learned from Tyler. I learned from the wisdom of having my dad be a business partner. And I will be the first to tell you I don't have it all figured out. I screw it up constantly, but I'm constantly also trying to learn from others that have been involved, like yourself and other businesses. We've talked about in our lunch meetings or just our informal conversations how much I've learned just in your experiences and what you've gone through in your own businesses.
Well, and likewise, I'm right there with you. I love studying people's stories. I love interacting with them to find out, just like we're doing here today, what are these little nuggets, these little keys that you've found that unlock those doors for those of us that, we might face something a similar way and, oh, wait, I remember hearing so-and-so say this, I can do this, I can get through it. So shift gears again. We may drift around.
Okay.
That's part of the fun, organic nature of it. I know you grew up in Roswell, but why did you? What's the driving force behind doing most of your business in Roswell?
Well, after college and going to law school, I had an opportunity to come back and practice law with the Sanders, Bruin, Collin Worley law firm. It was a firm that my dad was kind of one of the early attorneys in that law firm, and I was the kid that grew up in the hallways, get to be part of that firm and loved it. And so I got to see a little glimpse of what that firm was like. And so when it came down to practicing, I got an opportunity to get to practice law with my dad and my brother, who were both practicing there in Roswell. And so I was the beneficiary of a child getting to grow up in this community and be the son of a business leader, a principal at the high school my grandfather was. And so Roswell was home. But married an East Texas girl. She thankfully agreed to move to Roswell. And Donovan, we just kind of prayed about where we were supposed to be. I told you that faith is a big part of our life and my life in business and profession and my personal life. And when we prayed and felt like where we were supposed to set down roots, it was Roswell, New Mexico. It wasn't, there are a lot of things Roswell didn't have, but Roswell is an amazing place because of the people. And when I look at Roswell as a business opportunity, I think there's lots of potential. It's, and obviously I'm not just saying it, I believe it because of our law firm and the Visiting Angels and some of these other businesses. I just think the population-wise, just the opportunities here. Sometimes if you go to other communities, big cities, you've got tons and tons of competition or tons and tons of industries. And in Roswell, you can build relationships, you can know people, you can know your banker, and you can know the people you're dealing with. And I love doing things like this where people get to learn more about who we are, because I love that about Roswell. I love when I go to do business with you, I know who you are. I know the type of person you are. I know the type of employees you hire. Well, that's what Roswell is.
It's a uniqueness, isn't it?
That is unique. Yeah. And in fact, I was just visiting with a cousin of mine who lives in Dallas area, and he was asking business questions, and I encouraged him to look even at some of these smaller communities, because I think there's so much opportunity to build relationships, and use those skill sets that you can develop, not only with people, but just in growing a business in a community like Roswell. And that's really been our experience, not only Roswell, but all of Southeast New Mexico.
Wow. So with staying on the Roswell topic, obviously it's a smaller community, things like that. What would you see, because you've talked about, which everyone that visits always talks about the hospitality and the genuine nature of the people. What do you see as the challenges of working in that environment, and what have you guys been doing to overcome those things?
No, that's a great question. I think there are plenty of challenges being in Roswell. We're a bit remote. I mean, you talk about needing to get to bigger cities. You're looking at Albuquerque and some of these others that aren't nearby. And just opportunity-wise, employee-wise, sometimes even just the hiring process, that can present challenges that you may have any number of different areas. But what we have just found is the pluses outweigh the negatives, the positives. And what offsets a little bit of those challenges, I think, of a place like Roswell is we live in the most amazing time in history for business owners because of technology. Yeah. You can, in an instant, have a reach that you could never have had, even a few years ago. Yeah. And so we like to use a combination of modern technology combined with just relationship building. There's a certain amount of business that you can't be so unwilling to invest in technology or you'll be left behind. I don't care whether that's law, home care. There's a function of technology that can make you efficient, and you have to be willing to invest in. But you can't do so just at the mercy of relationships. That's or good. You've got to have really that combination. And that's for each of our businesses. We have tried to capture both of those. And certainly the relationship side with Roswell has been something growing up here to say, you know who we are. This is the kind of business we're going to build. We'd love to work with you, and here's how we'd like to do it. Right. And you can't replace that side with technology. Those two, at least from what works for us, kind of go hand in hand and use them to complement each other. Awesome.
Okay, so let's shift gears again. I know that you're a studier of leadership practices, business success stories. You've told me that one of your passions is just seeing how other people have achieved and how can you adapt that to here. Mm-hmm. Of those things, what might be your 3 up to 5 quick, just cool things that you would list and say, hey, here's some things that have really been defining for you lately that, the people listening in and so forth would be able to walk away with some nuggets of truth.
Okay, sure. I love to read about different success stories in other industries. I've spent my life in the practice of law, so I don't enjoy reading about other lawyers as much. I love reading about, and we were talking about this earlier, the Kobe Bryant type. Yeah. One of the things that people respected so much about Kobe is he was not only an exceptional basketball player, he had great success off the court as a businessman. Yeah. And when you study guys like Kobe and some of these leaders in various industries, they're just elite, but not elite because they just came out of the womb with the most unbelievable talent. Certainly they're talented, but they worked really hard. And I read a book called The Tools of Titans by Tim Ferriss. Tim Ferriss has a podcast where he interviews some of the most exceptional people in the world, whether they're Olympians, business owners, across all different fields, athletes. And when you read that, what he did is he interviewed them and just kind of asked them to speak about their life and what did they attribute their success to, and just learn a little bit more of their story. And what I love about the book, and I would encourage anyone to check it out. Okay. It's broken up into sections. You learn about a lot of different people. But you start to see some common threads. What makes an Olympian successful? What does he have or she have that is similar to this business owner or someone that's the world-class chef? Yeah. And when he compiles in a book like this, you start to see some similar things. And one of them is just out of the gates, this mindset of, I'm going to work really hard to succeed, this relentless pursuit of excellence. And I don't care whether you're a small law firm owner or you're the owner of a Fortune 500 company. There are certain skills and certain things you're going to have to do to succeed. And every single one of them had to be willing to work really hard. They didn't say, where's the fast forward button? How do I just get instant success? They were willing to work hard, invest, and do things for long-term success. And I've tried to take some of those principles and apply it in my own practice. So certainly understanding the mindset of, I'm going to have to work really hard. When I was growing up as a lawyer and first being trained, my dad taught me the difference between a good lawyer and a bad lawyer was hard work. Wow. And Donovan, I think that can be expanded out into any industry. There is no shortcut. You got to be willing to do the right things and do it well. And to have this understanding, it may take some time, but it's worth it.
Wow, that's really good. Because we're in such a unique digital age where everything's now, how are you taking what you've been studying on that, which is about, everything's a process and it takes time, and helping this younger generation along the path of understanding that just because you're in an immediate now stuff, which that's good. Some things are really great. We can get it now, I'm not knocking it. Sometimes that creates an impatience that, loyalty and stability is lost. What are you guys doing to inspire that?
I think it starts with understanding why we're doing it in the first place. Okay. If you don't understand, why am I going into business? You can go get a job, earn a paycheck, any number of different ways. Yeah. If you're going to take that leap and be a business owner, then I believe you have to start with, why are you doing it in the first place? Because you will run into difficult times financially, personally. There are sacrifices that are made. Yeah. You better have a really good idea about why you're doing it in the first place, because when those tough times come, when you're in those valleys and you're struggling, it's that anchor of, I am doing this because we'll get you through it. And so if it takes time, if you don't see that immediate success, then you're okay with that, because long term, I'm doing this because it is so important to me. I will not fail because I'm a provider in my family, or whatever your why might be. I would encourage anyone in any industry, list it out, write it out frequently, and keep going back to that, because it will not be just this easy, I show up just because I have a good product to sell, people come. There's all different aspects of it. There's a marketing side. You've got to be able to communicate it well. Do you have the right team? There are a lot of pieces that go into this recipe for success. Yeah. And I just think if you are understanding of your why you did it in the very first place, you're okay with, you're at least a lot more likely to be okay with it being a little bit of a longer process, because deep down, I'm doing it for a reason. I'm going to do what it takes to succeed, even if it takes a little bit of time. Wow,
really good. I knew that this would be good in these conversations with you. So let's say that we're talking about a younger 18, 19, 20, somewhere in there, entrepreneur, because we're going to run that filter, because you are an entrepreneur yourself, that's wanting to go out on their own, wanting to start something, doesn't know where to begin, loves the idea of all that, but hasn't had any mentorship in this or training. How would you give them some insight and guidance, and maybe even add to that of where would you direct them to be learning from, some sources that they can go to as well? So it's kind of a two-part.
Sure. I think it's a couple of things. As we talked about earlier, we live in an amazing time for technology and information. There's tons of information out there. And I think it starts with trying to narrow down what are your skill sets, or what industry are you potentially considering. And it could be a wide variety. And then start looking online and start researching that industry. There's lots of information out there. There's everything from message board. I would read books. I'm an information guy. If there's something I want to learn, there's podcasts, there's online research. And I got to tell you, I think there is a lot of value in just being bold about who does something well in that industry. Don't reinvent the wheel, and go out and just either try and get a meeting with them, a phone call, just start learning from those in that field. What I found, most business leaders that have some measure of success are willing to share their information. I think they'd love it. If you're curious, teach me about this, particularly for someone who's just kind of starting to figure out if this is something they want to do, and be bold with it. There are a lot out there that are so fearful of what if. Learning to be okay with failing and not it succeeding from day one is just a skill you have to become okay with. Nobody wants to fail, but if you read about most successful business people, athletes, or anyone, they've had failure in their path. They've learned from it. And even people, it's funny, you read everyone from Walt Disney, who's fired and doesn't get jobs and goes to 100 different banks trying to get financing for the parks. You realize the people that we now know as these huge success stories didn't start out that way. They started at the ground level with just this willingness to work hard. I love 18 and 19-year-old kids that have a desire to go out and be an entrepreneur. But don't be it because they just don't want a boss. Be it because you want to create, you want to dream, you want to feel something inside of you that says, let's do something incredible. But don't mistake being an entrepreneur for, I don't have to work. I think it's the opposite. If you're an entrepreneur, I think you almost have to work harder than someone that just has that normal job.
Understood.
Because Donovan, as a finance guy, my heart is also with the practical. You got to pay the bills. You can't just be a dreamer and not ever have the practical side of how do I support myself.
Yeah, that's good.
But being willing to work hard, do the research, put in the work. I love the time that we live in because the opportunities are unlimited.
Excellent. I'm going to go a little personal.
Okay.
You go as deep as you want to go on that.
Okay.
But you mentioned an important key to being successful in business is your why.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay. For me, if someone said, who is Jeremy Worley? I would have said, I'm a Christian, first and foremost. That defines every part of who I am and who I want to be. I'm a husband and a father. If you said, would I rather be a successful business person or be a good dad and husband all day long? I want to be a good dad and husband.
Wow.
And I wanted a profession that would allow me to be a good husband and father, but also find that need inside of me to work hard, to work within my skill set that I think the Lord's blessed me with, be willing to work hard, but willing to say, God, if I go out and I'm willing to take risks as an entrepreneur, and there are risks of starting businesses, then I'm willing to be bold with it. And my why is I want to be a good husband, father, and I want to provide for my family.
Okay.
And I want to use the resources that God's given me to take care of my family, to be a giver, to give back. If I can enjoy some measure of success, it allows me to do more things at my church or be involved in other organizations as well. And so for me, it starts with faith and family. And again, that doesn't mean I don't work hard, but it did mean I had the freedom to create something, to work hard for something, while at the same time allowing me to be the husband and father that is so important to me and that I want to be.
Wow, that's really cool. I think that resonates with a lot of us that go out on our own. We want to make a difference. I think that's a common thread that we hear a lot.
Right. And one thing I would add to that, Donovan, just something that, again, the why. We have, throughout our different businesses, 7 employees at my office, 20 to 25 at Visiting Angels. We've got another 3 through Speech Therapy Solutions and through our ice houses. We have people showing up every single day that have kids at home. They have spouses at home. They have the same responsibilities that we have. We owe it to our employees to show up and be good men and women, to be honorable, to lead our business in a way that allows them to thrive. And I'm not talking just thriving because they get a paycheck and they go home. Do they find value in it? Is it meaningful? Do they buy into the vision? And to be part of a community like Roswell, that we can provide that, it's a blessing, but it's a responsibility. Wow. The way that that I live my life as a business owner matters. It translates into how I run my business or who I'm a partner with.
Yeah.
You cannot completely separate those two. I cannot be a horrible person, a jerk to people, and over here somehow and expect my staff to be differently. If
That's
I
good.
ask them to treat clients a certain way, then it starts with me at the top. It starts with Josh at the top of setting the tone. And if we fail at that, and we have at times, we see it reflected in our business. So I think the why is also a lot of people depend on us. They've taken a leap of faith, Donovan. They could go and work at other places. These are gifted people. These are really likable, good people. They can work any number of places. They've invested in us. They've taken a chance on us. I believe we owe it to them to continue to learn, improve, and run a business that helps it be a good thing for them, not just us as the owners.
Man, that's really, really good. I appreciate you sharing that. That's we've had some really good nuggets here today. We're closing in on our time. We've probably got 5 to 10 minutes left of our potential hour. You know, each one of these interviews might be somewhere 30 minutes, but I try to keep it within 60 minutes. And I appreciate you giving your time and your insights and thoughts. What, since we have a little bit of time there, what are some things when you had thought about coming on here that you were like, you know what, I'd love to share this, or maybe we didn't touch it, or something else that springboarded as we were talking, and you're like, you know what, let me throw this out there.
Sure. One that comes to mind that I hear from friends that have considered at various times whether they should start their own business. There's a fear factor that comes in. It's hard to, especially if you're not the 18 to 19-year-old kid, but you're the 40-year-old man or someone that's got time invested in a company, and they're considering whether they should kind of take that leap of faith and start a business.
Wow, that's a good question.
My encouragement would be I think you're capable. People are capable of so much more than they give themselves credit for. It's scary. And I don't think it should be just this blind leap of faith, right? There's a balance of I've got to do my research and I've got to do my homework. But when I find that opportunity, I would just encourage anyone out there that's unsure. You're never going to have that everything's perfectly lined up. You're risk-free. It does not exist. But I think when you are put in that situation, to be willing to be bold, chase that dream, create something new, don't settle. Because I've found too many people have that just inner desire to go out and either be a business owner or try something new. And they're either scared or hesitant for good reason. Yeah. But I would encourage some to be a little bit more bold with it, because it's so rewarding, not without challenges, but it is rewarding if you have that part in you that says, I know I can go out and do it. And you and I were talking about this earlier. When you are put under restriction and you're basically saying, I have to work at this or I can't make my mortgage or whatever. Right. It's amazing what blossoms from that.
It is.
It forces something inside of us, that scrappy nature, to say, I will not fail at this. And this is where why did I do this? That comes into play when you're in those doubtful moments. But to just say, be willing to take chances, because I think if more people would be willing to do that, they would surprise themselves. And not that it doesn't come without saying, I've got to make sure my family's on board and those people around me. It's got to be a good decision. But go for it. There are too many people sitting at that desk unwilling to say, I won't take a chance on it. The same skill sets, I think, are transferable across a number of different businesses. The same reason Kobe could be successful and off the court. The same reason Olympians can be successful businessmen. If you're willing to go out and work really hard, and that means coming up with a plan. Not every detail. There is no way to have it all figured out.
Ain't that the truth?
Yeah. Amen to that, right? About the time you think you have it figured out, you'll get thrown. But I wish more would be willing to say, you know what, it's worth it. I'm going to take a chance. I'm going to take a risk because I can do this. And that would be my heart for anyone sitting out there listening. Take that chance.
You would say that the risk is worth the chance of not having regret?
Yes, absolutely. And whatever stage in life you are, you can find success if you're willing to work hard at it. you can succeed. I am 100% convinced of it. But don't be the entrepreneur because you don't want the regular hours.
Yeah, do it for the right reasons.
Do it for the right reasons. Be willing to
better be made for it.
To
right?
work at it. Yeah, absolutely.
It's hard enough when you're made for it. I can't imagine with all that we go through if that wasn't your thing. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and we've been in, any of us that have been involved in those situations where you and I both have been, where you were in a job that's steady and you just have this desire inside of you, the what if.
Right.
And for me, for Josh, for our family, it was a lot of prayer. And then you reach the point where you say, let's do it. And if you have that confidence, then I truly believe you're willing to do what it takes to succeed. Success can be a lot of different things too,
That's
Donovan.
good.
For some,
I agree.
It doesn't have to be a financial thing. Success is I have freedom.
Right.
Freedom is invaluable for some. I want to
Right.
be the Little League coach. I want to go to dance. I want to pick my kids up from school.
Yeah.
That success can come more so than just in a paycheck. And that's where, if you're unwilling to take some of those risks.
So it's okay to have your own definition of success. Just go after it.
I think it's
Is that what you're
essential.
saying?
Absolutely. When you start with that why am I doing this? What
good.
does success look like? Because you better be able to define that for the people around you.
Yeah.
You don't do this, most of us don't do it in a vacuum. You've got spouses
Right.
and children and people that are dependent on you, employees. How can you articulate that? And you better get it right inside of you. You better figure it out before you expect other people
It's good.
to buy into it.
Jeremy, this has been amazing, and just I really appreciate you interrupting your day to spend some time with us and to share some of your truth, some of your life. It matters. You know, we all get better by those that we're around and people we learn from. And so, what's ways that people can connect with you? If they're interested in learning more about who you are or what you do, or even just following you online and stuff like that.
Okay. Yeah. I'm at the Injury and Disability Law Center in Roswell, and we're right on Main Street, right kind of down from the McDonald's UFO. I love talking about this stuff, Donovan. My priorities are to taking care of my clients and my full-time job, but I love this stuff. And because I learn as much when I sit down and do this and I talk with you over a lunch, I learn as much from you as certainly more so than you'd learn from me. And I love this idea of learning from others. So anyone that's out there, I'd love to connect with them. You can, I'll give my cell phone. My cell phone's 575-626-2351. You can text me. Jeremy at idlawcenter.com is my email. And our website for our law firm, if you want to see other stuff we put out, is it's just idlawcenter.com.
Okay.
And we do a monthly newsletter. So if you're interested in kind of learning more about our office and what we do, we put that out every single month, and we'd be happy to add you to our list. And but again, any business leaders out there, anyone that just wants to talk, constantly learning, because we can talk about this for an hour and it sure sounds like all these things that I can say, but I'm still learning too. Yeah. I have a lot to learn. We screw up a lot. Our heart is just to learn from that and try and get it right.
Awesome. Well,
all right.
It's been a pleasure,
all right.
Jeremy.
Thanks, Donovan.
Thank you for spending your time.
You bet.
If you like today's program, subscribe to the format you are on, whether it be YouTube or a podcast channel. If you'd like to connect with me, go to donovanfulkerson.com. It has details about myself, our companies, and how to connect. If you're following our social media, my personal pages, well, it's just that. It has a lot of personal things, including spiritual content and details that I find interesting to me. Our social accounts for our businesses, obviously, is that. There will be products and day-to-day activities and things that relate to those specific companies. Thank you for connecting. Please share and get the word out. We'll see you next time.